Hello. Hi, sorry to interrupt everyone's conversations. Thank you so much for coming. First of all, Sarah wanted me to let you guys know that there is plenty of food, so feel free to grab seconds. Yeah. So, hello everyone. Thank you so much for coming. Good evening. Hope everyone found their seats well. They're all good seats. You can trust me. Yat shik do shidne Michaela Gilbert Insha, the Bethlehem Nishli, Trodachitni Bashashin, Bendalk Azadashache, Shihin Dashanelle, Trodilida de Nashan, Onuk Shuraloktak, Inuping Noranga, Wangak Ayuk, Nelachomichi Sira Michaela Gilbert, Gikatoruk Ming Noranga, Bavlacha Yipsi and Koyanakbak. Hello again, my name is Michaela. I am half Diné from Burntwater, Arizona, and I am also half Inupiaq from Kotzebue, Alaska. I'm also a student here at CCC and a student at NEU studying chemistry. I work here for the Native American Success Center as a peer mentor for CCC, so yep. Thank you guys so much for coming. Before I get started, I wanted to give us a round of applause. Thank you so much to my team. So if I could have my team stand up when I call out your name, we'd really appreciate it. So thank you to our fearless leader of the NASC, Brian Francis. Appreciate it. Thank you, thank you. Thank you to our fellow peer mentor, Nikki McCabe. She wasn't able to make it, but thank you so much. And then And then our wonderful career advisor, Kelly Walker. She's serving food, so thank you again. Appreciate it. All right. And another huge thank you to Student Life, Sarah Heemstra, the coordinator, also serving food. Thank you. And to her wonderful team as well. Thank you so much. All right, and before I introduce our guest speaker for the night, I'd like to share how this whole event came to fruition. So when we were getting together at the beginning of the semester, coming up with fall events and how to, just planning things for the rest of the semester, I was put in charge of putting on an event for Native American Heritage Month, and I was really excited, and I knew I immediately wanted to do something STEM related, not only because I'm more familiar with it, but also working with students day to day. I know that we have a lot of STEM majors and we have a lot of future medical professionals. So if you're a student here tonight, please stand up. If you're a future engineer, future professor, if you're a future researcher, scientist, yes, thank you. It's okay if you don't stand up. You guys were in my head when I was putting this together, so thank you again so much. And because of our ambitious students here tonight, I wanted to invite a guest who has not only had a very successful a very successful STEM field career, but also has found a way to balance his traditions alongside his work. All right, and so I'll get started. I remember the first time I met Dr. Rock. It was years ago, probably about 9 years ago. It was in 2016, I believe. It was at the Shiprock Chapter House. And back then, when I was a little younger, my grandma was really pushing me to be in environmental chemistry. She had taken me along the San Juan River into Mexico to test for pH levels when I was younger, and it just really stuck with me. And so any event that was related to our local environmental health or anything along the San Juan and Animas River, we were usually there at those presentations. And that's when I had met Dr. Rock and the graduate student at the time, Andy Lister, or now Dr. Andy Lister, were presenting their research on content levels in sheep, as well as water content levels along the San Juan River. And so I remember hearing them speak, and I remember hearing, after they were done with their presentations, I remember hearing them translate it in Navajo, just for the elders at the chapter house. And I remember just sitting there in awe, and I was like, wow, I've never seen this before. I've never heard Navajo translated like this. I was like, this is so cool. And from then on, it shaped, how I've, wanted my career to be at CCC as well as NEU. So yeah, and then I was also very lucky enough to attend Dr. Rock's class last semester in Indigenous knowledge at NEU. So if you guys are curious, I recommend to enroll. But yeah, without further ado, allow me to introduce our guest speaker for tonight. So Dr. Tommy Rock has earned his bachelor's from Arizona State University in 2002 in environmental geography and recreational management. He's earned a master's as well at Northern Arizona University and returned back in 2017 for a doctorate and since then has worked at NEU as a professor and continues his research, fieldwork, and public outreach to this day. So everyone please welcome Dr. Tommy Rock to the floor. Thank you.
I had to bring my pop-up, make it all res. Well, well, yeah, that casting lo. She Tommy Rock on Shadow and Lee or Jet Kodo Adonasha Lee. But she get that no are to shitin, she shadow, she Ado Ada could conslande ya. Dog Arisha Daltra. I don't die, and then she don't know. Not that she shan't, there's somebody seen Corregini that should say that look at net, that's not her died, and then she. Hi, my name is Dr. Tommy Rock, and first of all, I said Kasi, which is a formal way of introducing myself to all. Another way of saying it is Kwasan, which is including our ancestors. It means like you acknowledge the people that pass. And I used to say Kwasan a lot. I was told not to do that. It's like including the people that pass as well. So Kahasin means the people that are living here at the present moment. So I use Kahasin a lot nowadays because of that. But in some cases, with the work that I do, I mention that to my audience, native and non-native, to tell them about why I say the two version and to acknowledge the people that have passed from environmental exposure. Like I do a lot of research related to uranium, water, soil, plant, animals, and also oil and gas as well. There's quite a bit of oil and gas exposure, the ambient gas of the benzene, hydrogen sulfide, which you'll see later in my presentation on both topics. So that's the reason why I say it two ways. And I mentioned my clan. I mentioned I'm the Ute Salt clan, born for the Minigoat clan, and my maternal grandfather are the Bitterwater clan, and my paternal grandfather are the Reed People clan. And another reason why I say the Ute Salt clan, this is to acknowledge my ancestors. My ancestors that come from northern Utah, way north, around Fort Duchesne. So there were two girls that were taken from there and were traded with a Navajo man from Navajo Mountain. So I don't know if it was one sister or both sisters that came to Navajo Mountain, but I know I come from one of them. So that's the reason why I usually say I'm from the Ute Salt clan, just to acknowledge where my ancestors come from. So, and I mentioned Copper Canyon because that's where my grandparents are from. That's where I was raised. That's where our cattle, horses, sheep, and all that stuff is at. And it's to this day, that's where our cattle and horses are at still. And I mentioned that I went to school here, finished up here, and now I'm back. I was recruited back to NAU. And part of my journey is I had a break between my bachelor and master degree. I got my experience doing GIS work in Scottsdale. And I used to sit in a cubicle about that small, looking at a screen, yay big. It was boring. Mine was good, but it was boring. I wanted to go stretch my legs, so I left the construction, and I found out that my grandfather was suffering from the urine exposure, really bad asthma. And when I got to a master's program, I found out he had cancer. And I did not know how bad it was until I remember coming back from a conference and getting a phone call like 5 in the morning, and my sister told me that our grandfather had a couple hours to live, so I rushed back up to Utah. And on my way back, he passed away from cancer. He died of bone cancer. So for me, stuff related to urine exposure is personal as well. I lost a lot of relatives to cancer. I buried my uncle last year from 3 different type of cancer: prostate, bone cancer, and it spread. So it went to his brain. He had brain tumor as well. So there's that, and I lost some of my peers from high school and from my undergrad as well to cancer as well. So in a lot of the presentation I do to the community members, I hear a lot of frustration. I hear a lot of anger because of that. And there's the federal government's really slow in reacting, and I hear that as a researcher, I didn't know how that feels, and I explained to them when I talked to them. It's like I know exactly how it feels, how angry it makes me, and frustrated of how things are being handled. So I put a lot of my expertise in helping our tribe addressing that. I am also close to being back on the Denied Uranium Reclamation Advisory Commission, telling the federal regulatory agency and tribal regulatory agency how to do cleanup on Navajo Nation as well. So I'll be back at that again. And the other part is once I did my master's, I went to University of New Mexico. I was a research scientist for a big research team called the NET Project, looking at uranium as a heavy metal. It's like looking at uranium as a source of kidney disease, contributing factor to diabetes. And so I was part of that research team for a while. Then my funding ran out. Then I worked for Navajo EPA for 2 years, so I got the chance to understand the regulatory side of things, stuff related to environmental exposure, environmental issues as well. And I realized how important a PhD is, so I went back to school, got my PhD degree, and once I was done here, I spent 1 year at University of Utah in the Rocky Mountain Center for Occupational Environmental Health, the first Native American to do so. So I'm happy with that. So I was able to work with Northern Arapaho at Wind River Reservation in Wyoming, and I did a research project from a funding from Colorado State University with the Sioux Nation, with the Pine Ridge, Cheyenne River, and Standing Rock. I was 3 years late to the Standing Rock. I was on Indian time. That's my excuse. But I looked at the Missouri River and collected water samples and soil samples, and look at I call my research total petroleum hydrocarbon. Oil is hydrocarbon, so, or carbon based anyway. So I did my research looking at that, and there is oil in the soil along the shore, and there is oil in the water of the Missouri River. So the Sioux Nation are right about the oil in the Missouri River. So I gave all that information to the Sioux Nation. Then I left, and I was forced to become a professor at University of Utah. Well, they tried. I told them, nope, I'm not ready yet. So I left, and I was doing my own thing, my own little business, and doing consulting work, and I was actually doing very well. I was better paid than NAU at the time, so I was happy traveling and stuff and helping tribe community members, communities. And out of the blue, I got an email from a professor from Princeton, and it was like, I want to work with you. It's like, I do this project. It's supposed to be an 11-week project, but it turned into this prestigious Princeton University Presidential Research Fellow. So I did that prestigious research for Princeton for 2 years, and I did a study, groundwater contamination, lead isotope research, and uranium dust coming down from skyline to the community. I did that research. I did a pilot study related to the oil and gas field in Anna's chapter and Counselor chapter near Chicocane as well. And with some of the data that I got from the oil and gas study, the community were able to sue the state of New Mexico to move the oil and gas facilities away from school. So I'm happy with that. So the stuff that we do with our knowledge, with our scientific knowledge and the way we do things do help communities and do improve the quality of life. So some of the stuff that you're going to hear tonight is related to those topics. And there's the topic about uranium and radiation exposure as well. So don't fall asleep now. And background, my grandparents, there they are. My grandfather was a World War II vet in the Army. He blew his stuff up, so it helped him with his mining stuff. And my grandma, she passed away at 105, 106 years old. Passed away a couple of years ago. And this, well, that is Moonlight Mine. And a lot of the interviews that I've done so far is related to that. And I talk about that quite a bit because when I was a little kid, my grandfather drew up to the north side of that open pit mine, and he just stayed there. I don't know why, so I just stayed there. I was a little kid, and I was impatient. I didn't know what those hills were on the side, so I played on the uranium waste. And then we left. So once I was done with my bachelor degree from Arizona State, we were having breakfast one morning. He told me that that particular mine is the last place that he ever worked. And there were 3 of them walking out of that mine. There's a big old entrance on the east wall. It's about 15 feet by 8 feet wide, real big. There's a big boulder blocking that mine. My cousin used to explore a lot of those mines in my chapter, and that's one of the places that we were checking out, and we're like, oh, what's curious? We're curious about what's behind that particular boulder. What was unique about that boulder was like when my grandparents were walking out, or my grandfather was walking out on that particular day, there's the person in front of him, he walked out, my grandfather walked out, but the guy behind him didn't walk out. That big boulder killed him. That was his grave. I didn't know that. So I think it's one of those remorse or survivor's guilt, maybe. Maybe that's why he was looking at that. And I think about that. I've seen that boulder. So when he told me that, I knew exactly what he was talking about that boulder. And that's my doggy. I traveled the East Coast with him, back there and back. And this is Skyline Mine. Pick this up. There you go. So that's Skyline Mine, and that's the uranium ore, cornatite, uraninite, and other various kinds. And that's where they're found between the Chinook-Mount Kopi Formation. But there used to be a river a long time ago going from Texas to Washington, and where those rivers and tributaries connect to that big river, that's where you see all these uranium ore. So that's where you find them, and that's one of those places. And this is one of the research that I did, and I found uranium dust near the wall, halfway between the housing and the wall, and over at the people's houses. And that's one of the concerns that community members had, and showed the regulatory folks that their concerns were valid. So I gave the information to them. And this just shows you where the uraniums are located in Church Rock, the Grants Uranium Belt, and where they're located in the geological formation. The Morrison Formation is like way in the middle. Chinley, Morrison, and can't really see what was up there, but Morrison Formation is right in the middle, so that's where the uranium ore is found in the Grants Mineral Belt. And this map just shows you where the different type of uranium ore are located in the Colorado Plateau and going up much further north in Colorado and up in northern Utah as well, it's like, and in Arizona and New Mexico as well. And that's like the nuclear fuel cycle. So a lot of the work that I do has to do with mining and milling, research-wise, when I'm looking at exposure. And I bring this up to a lot of my audience a lot of the time when I'm talking about nuclear fuel cycle, and we're talking about nuclear power plants, because when it comes to nuclear power plants, you need a lot of water to run those facilities, and in the Southwest, you wouldn't have a lot of water. And just like this past April or May, there was talk about building another nuclear power plant in Arizona, and one of the big questions is that where's the water come from? I hope they don't move forward with that. So, and also from mining all the way to like fuel fabrication and all, it's like it creates a lot of greenhouse gases, and that's one of the narratives that a lot of the folks don't talk about when it comes to nuclear power plant. It is true. The nuclear power plant doesn't create a lot of greenhouse gases, but all the way close to it, it does produce a lot of greenhouse gases. And that's a lot of stuff that a lot of people don't talk about. And in terms of mining, this is from BLM, Bureau of Land Management, and they do have a count of the amount of hard rock mined. And there's like over 57,000 hard rock mining. Uranium is part of hard rock mine. And out of that, about 20% have been remediated. So that brings like 47,000 or so still out there. And out of that, I have no idea how many are uranium mines or legacy mines. And in this slide, this is from US EPA. And they estimate there's about 15,000 abandoned uranium mines in the western US, and it's scattered all over the place. So looking at this number, and on the previous slide, there's two different numbers. So in reality, we have no idea how many abandoned uranium mines are still out there. And this slide just shows you that a lot of these mines are near tribal reservations, and it's still impacting them. So there's a lot of health issues related to uranium exposure. And another slide shows like health stuff related to uranium exposure. And some of the research is still going on, like the one from University of New Mexico, which is pretty important, the prenatal mental exposure and infant developmental outcome in a naval population. And when it comes to arsenic, mercury, and lead, there's cognitive effect when kids are exposed to that. But we don't know the outcome when it comes to uranium exposure, so there's still a lot of research that needs to be done. And this slide just shows you that the federal government knew about the risks when it comes to uranium mining and milling, because there were delegations that were sent to Europe, and they saw the consequences of being exposed to uranium mining and milling, but they did not inform the miners or millers or people that were working in the industry. So they withheld a lot of that information. And when it comes to Umtrica or former uranium mills, there's about 24, I believe it was, throughout the country. And there's one active uranium mill still active, and that's White Mesa, near the White Mesa Utes Reservation. And looking at a lot of these former uranium mills, I don't see no lining when it comes to disposing of or when they became Superfund. There's no lining underneath, and I mention that because it does impacting the groundwater, and there are groundwater contamination that's happening. Like there's 4 Superfund sites on the Navajo Nation, rare minerals near Tuba City. There's water monitoring, determining which way the water is flowing. And the Hopi tribe have a valid reason to be concerned about that, because it is going towards, the plume is going towards the reservation near their water source, and that water source is Navajo Aquifer going there. The other one is over in El Chita, Mexican Hat. There's a Superfund site there. That one's leaking to the San Juan River, but when it comes to uranium and water, dilution is the answer. So there's a lot of water there, so it gets diluted, which is good in a way. And then over in Shiprock, there is contamination that's happening just adjacent to that Superfund site. Same thing over in Church Rock. There is a plume that's moving as well. So there's still a lot of issue. Even the one over in Moab, there is uranium leaking to the Colorado River there as well. And when it comes to the Manhattan Project or the nuclear testing that happened, this is something I did not know. I put a PowerPoint together, and one thing I always thought about was like all the nuclear testing happened in Nevada. That part is true, but it also happened in New Mexico as well, Colorado, all the way down in Georgia. Is that Georgia or Louisiana? So anyway, one of those, and over in Alaska as well. And the one thing that really stands out when I look at that map is Farmington, New Mexico. That is actually on the Apache Reservation in Dulce. The Hickory Up Reservation, they had this fantastic idea to detonate a nuclear bomb just so they didn't get oil. Then they realized that it wasn't as effective as they thought, so they closed that. That's a below ground detonation that happened near Farmington, New Mexico. And then, Mississippi, Bradford, Colorado, so all of that. And when it comes to storage, these are some of the places where there's storage facilities, and a lot of them are related to the nuclear power plants. And the one that comes up a lot is Jacket Mountain, where the Shoshone and the Paiute tribes are fighting that, and they're still fighting to it to this day. And back home, and for this slide, I mentioned the Bitterwater clan because I do a lot of work related to water. And one of the stories when it comes to Bitterwater clan, they were the clan that were looking for water, and they found water, but the water was bitter, and that's why they came up with the name Bitterwater clan. But when it comes to traditional stuff related to water, this is the clan that have ties to water. So I'm from the Ute Salt clan or Salt clan. I don't have ties to water like these guys do. They have stories and ceremonies and songs related to water. So that's the reason why I work a lot with the Bitterwater clan, because they have strong ties in their stories and their songs and ceremonies related to water. So that's the reason why I work a lot with Bitterwater clan when it comes to water. And this slide shows you the health risks for Navajos that drink unregulated water sources. Stuff like from stomach cancer, gallbladder cancer, and so on and so forth. And it's quite a bit. And for Navajo Nation, when COVID hit, it showed that Nova Nation doesn't have um, public water to every home, and depending on different part of the reservation, there's either 30% of the population don't have access to public water, or 50% don't have access to public water. So it all depends. And this is one of Dr. Coletta Chief's work, and I brought this up because it's also related to food as well. And we live in a food desert, and we don't, as big as Nava Nation is, we don't have a lot of groceries. So a lot of people eat unhealthy food, and also like with the lack of healthy food, they're more likely to get like not kidney disease, diabetes, and so on and so forth. And when it comes to water contamination and people drinking unregulated water sources, it has to do with nephrotoxicity, meaning drinking that can damage your stomach, your kidney, your liver, like the whole system. So that's a big or a huge concern when it comes to drinking unregulated water source and not knowing the water quality. So a lot of stuff that I do is like related to water quality and looking at the water chemistry in a lot of these unregulated water sources. And this just shows you that there is ongoing work that's happening, and this is one of them from Dr. Ingram's lab, and which I was a part of, and collected a lot of water samples. So we're just like filling a lot of gaps and checking a lot of water quality from a lot of the unregulated water sources. Same thing here across Nova Nation, trying to fill all the gaps, and a lot of work's being done. On the previous night, you saw a lot of work being done on the western side, but if we look on the eastern side, you don't see a lot of sampling that has happened in that area. So there's still a lot of work that needs to be done and close the gap and get a better understanding when it comes to unregulated water sources and where people are consuming water. And also the Gold King mine spill, and how that impacted us as well. And this is like the work that I've done, environmental justice grant work that I've done, the work that I've done over in Sanders. And it's related to the spill that happened back in 1979, the Church Rock spill. And over 20 years of mining that happened over in Church Rock, the dewatering to get to the ore, the uranium milling that happened there. And this slide just tells you like the type of stuff that came from that spill that happened back in '79. And this is the work that I've done with Tulane Lake Enterprise. And I work a lot with Native-led grassroots organization, because when I used to work for my tribe, Navajo EPA, and I was all gung-ho about it, and I was like, all right, I was in a position of power, and I'm gonna go and help my people. But when I started doing that, going to meetings on weekends, and one of the things that I always hear is like, Navajo Nation, Navajo tribal employees don't work on weekends. I always hear that all the time. I was like, who are you? Why are you here? And he's like, I'm with Navajo EPA. And he's like, no, you're not. They don't work on weekends. So finally, they believe me. I work for Navajo EPA. And when I was doing a lot of this type of work, helping technical assistants and stuff, and my boss put me aside and said, hey, he's like, don't do that. Let the community come to you before you help them. And I was like, if they don't know what help they need, or how to ask, or what to ask for, is it, how will they know? And going to a lot of these chapter meetings, on the other side were the Native-led grassroots organizations. They had resolutions, and they were already impacting the community that they're working in. So it was like, hearing their talk and hearing their presentation, I was like, I want to be on that side. So I started working with Native-led grassroots organization. That's how this project came about with Tulana Lake Enterprise. And there's Sanders, and they had a groundwater contamination there with the public water in Sanders, the Windsong system. They also had a contamination in the elementary and junior high school there as well. They're tapped into the same aquifer. And through our work, they were able to address that, and the Sanders community got good water from our nation. And the school got a water filtration system that filters the uranium from the ground source as well. So helped that community there. So it was just great. And anytime we're dealing with federal dollars, you have to write a quality assurance plan, get approved, which I did, wrote that off, worked with 8 chapters in that project. So the outcome of that, the Sanders had good water now, the water filtration put in place for the school, the community came together, they got a sand owners association, so a lot of good stuff happened there. And when I did this is the first project I've ever led my own little research, and had nothing to do with NAU, but the stuff that I've learned. So we're able to help the community and change policy in the state of Arizona. So it's good, we won. And this has to do with like the air quality, oil and gas, and use methane as a detector, and benzene is on the side. Show you like how high they are at times. And during the winter months, that's when a lot of people get exposed because the gas is heavier, so it stinks slower. And you see a lot of that stuff. And in both communities, both chapters have issues related to respiratory issues as well, especially the students. So that's a big concern. So one of my colleague friend, we put a research proposal together to do more research in those areas as well. This is like an area that haven't done much research for our tribe, for Navajo Nation, so looking forward to do more research there. And I'm looking for ways to improve access to water, especially around COVID-19. These are some of the places where there's existing water and new existing water sources where community can get to, but it's not all over the place, and a lot of them are tapped into the water infrastructure system within Navajo Nation as well. And there's limitations to the Safe Drinking Water Act, population based, meaning that it's where there's bigger populations, they can make money off of people, basically. And where there are not a lot of people, real isolated area, then they can't run water lines to those areas because they don't make money, meaning public water folks. And out in rural isolated areas, that's where there's a lot of people preserving Navajo tradition, Navajo culture as well. So we see a lot of that stuff as well. And some of the another limitation of the Safe Drinking Water Act is that there's constantly new things coming up, and like PFAs and other stuff, they don't have enough time to look at the maximum contaminant level for some of these stuff. So it's like constantly going. And with the Clean Water Act, it's like with the past Trump administration, they deregulate this, and where industries can pollute a lot of waterways like rivers, streams, which is connected to, well, in some cases connected to areas where people get their water supply. So if that's contaminated, then it takes a lot more to filter a lot of these water contaminant out as well. And with the Clean Water Act, they don't really address the uranium or the radionuclides like gross alpha, gross beta, radium 226 plus 228. So there's a lot of stuff that's not in here, but it is in the Safe Drinking Water Act. The Safe Drinking Water Act doesn't regulate vanadium, but this one does. So there's still a lot of work that needs to be done to improve that. And one of the ways that I help or try to help is looking for ways to make water access. And I love this one, the lower left, is because I'm working with Tulane Lake Enterprise. This is over in Black Falls. The Navajo Nation and US EPA, they got over $100,000 drilling wells to make water access for the Black Falls community, and they were unable to do that. They tapped into the Coconino Aquifer, which is real salty, so they just closed that. But for us, with Tulane Lake Enterprise, we're able to access some good water, and we're able to provide water to the local community. So we won, so that's pretty awesome. So it's like, we did something you guys, you didn't. We did something you guys couldn't do, so it was like, yay. And some stuff that I'm working on, making water accessible. This is like over in Ojito chapter, putting in tanks, looking at water quality, working with University of Arizona, looking at water filtration system, help create a nano water filtration system down at U of A with Dr. Coletta Chief's team. And with the work that I've done, these are the 8 springs that I worked on so far up to this point. That's Pinon Spring. And this is one of the water filtration systems on the lower right-hand corner. And with this, as I can put in solar panels, put in composting shower as well. And with the composting, a lot of that's for the elders, so they can stay inside and do their business as well and keep them warm, keep them safe. Back in Ojito, about 3 years ago, one of the grandmother went to go to the outhouse during the winter months, and she lost her way, and she ended up freezing to death. They found her body the next morning, so that's to prevent that from happening again. And TEK risk assessment and how tribes do risk assessment and how it relates to TEK and each environmental justice issue as well. So I'm just looking at the time, so making sure that I have questions, so kind of speeding. Questions? Are you guys still with me? Still awake?
So I have a mic here if you guys have any questions.
So my question is about where that uranium came from, because it seems like it's in one layer of the earth. Has there been any study on what laid all the uranium there at that time?
It's in different layers, different geological layer. Some is in the Morrison Formation and the upper Chinle Formation as well. So it all depends. Like here, the Painted Deserts in the petrified sandstone or one of them formation in that geologic formation. So it's found in different layers. Which is very interesting, by the way, because over in Petrified National Forest, research team from Columbia University found an abandoned uranium mine on Petrified Wood National Park, which is undocumented. So there's still a lot of them out there.
My question, maybe a two-part question. Do you have a specific team that you use when you're doing your research? Any like the research in the springs or anything like that? Do you have like a set specific team that you do that with, or people come in from different areas, undergraduates, things like that? And if you do, how do you determine who comes and helps you with that?
I don't ask them, they usually ask me. So if they want to learn, by all means, go for it and take you out there and get some water samples. And working with community members, talk to them about the water policies, the Safe Drinking Water Act, the Clean Water Act, and how that helps individual as well. Yeah.
So, just so that I understand a little bit more, they've determined, whoever they is, that 30 parts per billion is safe. How did they determine that? And honestly, I'm sitting here thinking, how about 0 is safe, not 30? Is it really safe at 30 parts, or is that just the line?
No, it's not safe at all. They come with 30 through compromise. The initial number was 20 parts per billion. But because of the public water company, they want to pay more money to lower it down to 20. They compromise and set 30, so stick at 30. So when people say it's like it's barely over 31, but they don't understand how that toxicity, the domestic contaminant level came about. But if you understand that, then it's like when people say 30 or 29 or so, it's like that's still an issue. To me, it's still an issue because of the study that was done to determine the level in the first place. So I would say anything below 20 is better, rather between 20 and 30. And that ruling came about in 2000.
Yeah, Tommy, I'm Sonia. I'm one of the advisors here. So thank you for coming. It's always great to have these kinds of things for our students and our community. So yeah. My question is related to water quality, like through NTUA. You know, like a lot of us probably grew up on the res, and I know like growing up, I lived in Mexican Hat, I lived in Shanto, I grew up in Tuba. Like all the places I lived have been in some way contaminated by uranium. So like how stringent is NTUA with ensuring our water quality is good in like these cities that we live in, like Tuba City, for example, or nearby areas? You know, that's what I'm concerned about because I'm going to move back. But it's like, should I like be buying water when I move back to the res? Like I'm at that point where I don't trust it, right? Because there's just so many holes in the system.
India is really strict on that, and they're being regulated by Nova EP with the Public Water System Supervision Program. And if there's any violations, they have to put a notice out informing the public about the water contamination there. And if we're going to move back and want to understand the water quality to whatever you're moving to, go to NTUA website and look for the Consumer Conference Report. CCR, Consumer Conference Report. In that report, it gives annual report on the type of water contamination that it had prior years, or talk about the water quality prior the year before. So you can go check that out so you have an understanding what the water quality is like for whatever you move to back on the res.
Hey. So for the Safe Water Act, you said one of the limitations was like it's not profitable to build water infrastructure, but like why aren't we like enforcing these folks to like build water infrastructure?
Well, the Safe Drinking Water Act is designed to help address the issue of public water or potable water, but it's also a way for companies to make a profit off of that as well. So that's the reason why I say is like it's based on population density. So on reservations, not only Navajo but other reservations, there's still an issue of public water or lack of public water. The infrastructure is like very limited, and that's based on where people live away from bigger communities. So that's, I see that as a continuing issue, and I've had numerous meetings with US EPA from Region 9 as well as Navajo EPA. Every time we had meetings around public water or extending water lines, they will always say is that we're extending water lines. That's always their answer. But what they don't say is that where the water line is gonna go, and once it goes up to a certain place, they will stop. Then depending on how many people live in those areas. So if people live further away or live in really rocky conditions, because it'll cost a lot of money to dig a trench through rock. And if it's not profitable for them to do that, then they're not gonna do that. So that's the reason why I said there's limitation on that and where people live. And it's continued to be an issue, but there are grassroots organizations trying to narrow the gap, like Dig Deep. They do a lot of work related to access to water or potable water. I know they're doing work in Navajo Mountain, Eastern Agency, as far as the Appalachian Mountain as well. So there will continue work being done from the grassroots side. And for a lot of my thinking is like the answer is grassroots organization can narrow those gaps along with researchers like from U of A or research teams that are working on water filtration system, because there needs to be a lot more work or research related to water filtration system to address and improving water quality. So stay in school, say, jump on one of those research projects.
You said there were 4 classified Superfund sites on the Navajo Nation. I'm curious, is it Navajo Nation EPA's job to focus on more remedial efforts, or is it EPA's federal work?
It falls under the Department of Energy. That's where a lot of the work is based on. So the Department of Energy or DOE, they come out of Grand Junction and look at a lot of these Superfund sites, and they monitor that as well.
Thank you.
So back in 2005 or 2006, when Henry Waxman got the federal agencies together to do the cleanup for Navajo Nation, they put Department of Energy, Nuclear Regulatory Commission, US EPA, Indian Health Service, and BA together and tell them to clean up a lot of these legacy mines and address the mills as well. And there used to be an annual workshop that talks about the effort that's going to that. That stopped in 2009 or 2010. It stopped, and other than that, that workshop never happened again. It happened a couple of times in Galton, New Mexico. It happened once in Tuba City. It happened once in Farmington, New Mexico. But other than that, it hasn't happened again yet. And in terms of discussion about uranium mining, public health, cancers, and people being affected, you see a lot of folks from US EPA, but you don't see folks from DOE, Nuclear Regulatory Commission, and you don't see folks from the Indian Health Service as well, or BIA. It's only one agency that's always there, but the other four federal agencies are not always present. Sometimes they're there, but they're just mostly quiet. But I think for going to a lot of these meetings and talking about health, you hear a lot of the crew members still talk about their family members, their friends, or people that they knew having cancer or passed away from cancer. So there needs to be a lot more effort from the Indian Health side, the Indian Health Service side, in addressing exposure. And the other thing that my friend Chris Shuey talks about is not to look at the pathway exposure or looking at that or TAK, but looking at the public health and using the public health information to see if this uranium mine cleanup is working. So I was thinking about it. Yeah, he is right. Instead of looking at the pathway exposures, like we should look at a lot more at the public health and see what's working, and looking for ways to minimize those impacts. And yeah, he is right on that, though. I do agree with that.
Well, Dr. Rock, I just want to say, yeah, thank you. So thank you for that. And don't really have a question, but just a comment, just to say, yeah, a lot of our students here, you met some of our summer bridge students earlier, and a lot of our students always want to know, like, what can I do? I want to help my people, you know, and there's different things that they see. A lot of times they're taking general education courses here, and it's not until they get into their field of study that they get to see what they can do beyond that. So thank you for bringing some of the things that they can do down the road as far as coming to help their people and also doing some other things on their res. So just want to say, yeah. So
Yeah. One last thing too is, like, especially coming from getting my bachelor degree, coming back, and my idea was like coming back to help my people. But with Navajo Nation, for example, it's like a lot of the folks don't get hired. They're like they're asking for a lot of stuff, and a lot of the folks from that are over in Window Rock and some of the folk from Navajo EP, they don't even have their bachelor degree, and they're working there, and they have all these criteria for students that are getting their bachelor degree or master degree. It's double standards. But I will say this is like, instead of trying to work in that space, create that space yourself, because there is a need for that. I did it. It's like, you can go write smaller grants and start that yourself. Start putting a grassroots organization together, and you see some of the grassroots forming and taking shape. And there's a couple of them in Flagstaff as well. So you don't necessarily have to go to the tribal government. You can create those jobs. You can create those stuff that is needed. So you have some of that knowledge, and you have that. So you can use those skills to your advantage rather than waiting around and complain that there's no job. You can create those jobs yourself.
Thank you, Dr. Rock. It was really wonderful hearing about the work you do for over a couple decades, or for over a decade, so thank you so much. And I'd like to give a big round of applause again, one more time, to my team at the Native American Success Center, so thank you again. Thank you to Student Life, thank you to IT, and thank you to Facilities. This event wouldn't have been possible without them, so thank you again. But yeah, unfortunately, our other guest speaker for the night, Misha Pipe, was not able to make it due to prior engagements, but we just got to hear more from Dr. Rock, so no worries. Let us know if you have any other questions about anything, but thank you again so much for coming out tonight. Thank you for eating all of our food. If there's any more, feel free to take it. But yeah, get home safe. I know it was snowing and raining earlier, so please get home safe, and we all hope you have a good night. Thank you.